All right, you posed a question that I need some context on.
I got my sheet now.
This you put this out on Twitter late yesterday, and you posed it to the G4 text thread, your Garner golf group. Would you rather be a State fan or a South Carolina fan? You've got 640 votes so far, and nearly 80% of those who have responded have said NC State. Now, I will say this. I'm guessing that the majority of the people who follow you, Joe, are NC State fans. They're not South Carolina fans. So I think this is not exactly a scientific poll that you're dealing with here. But even if I tried to look at this objectively, because we're here in the Triangle, we cover NC State along with North Carolina, Duke, and everybody else in the ACC. What is South Carolina's hook exactly? What's their hook?
All right,
Give me the elevator pitch on the Gamecocks. I want to hear this.
Let's go over the premise here, because
what's the premise here?
I can't ask people who are State fans, are you going to be a State fan? Right. This is, two thoughts on that. Number one, let's just say you just moved to the Triangle and you were going to pick a school to be a fan of. You have Carolina and Michael Jordan and all of the shiny objects, all of the success, the great color scheme, the pine trees, as our friend Heather Dinich once wrote. You have Duke, all of the success. Mike Krzyzewski, the greatest college basketball program of the last 40 years. You have very easy selling points, right? Adam Silver, go to Duke, the Fuqua Business School, you'll be on your way. NC State, on the other hand, you have to be born into NC State. It ain't for soft people. So most people don't willingly choose to be a State fan.
Oh, I would agree with that premise.
Given an option,
yes,
you're not going, oh, I want to be a State fan. It would truly have to be Becky in HR who goes, well, I like the color red better than blue, so I'm going to be a State fan. You would have to be oblivious to the world to be a State, to choose to be a State fan.
Or you share the building with the team and you're Rod Brindamore. And then you marry into the Wolfpack family, which quickly, condolences to the Brindamore family. Bob Brindamore passed away on Thursday, so our thoughts with them.
And what a great tribute I saw on Facebook from Trip Tracy. We have talked many, many times about Rod's legendary work ethic, and his dad, a pipe fitter, all of those years. That's where that work ethic came from. So yeah, you're right. But choosing to be a fan, and I think that's where I kind of got lost a little bit with the question and the framing of the question.
Okay.
So let's think of it as if there were 100 people to move into an area, and you got a choice, free slate, to pick a team to be a fan of, right? And I think most people out of 100, how many do you say would pick Carolina over State? North Carolina.
99.
With no allegiances.
Yeah, with no allegiances, 99 out of 100 are picking Carolina.
Yeah, I would say maybe 95. I would give them maybe a few more. There's a couple of contrarians probably out of 100, right?
Right.
But most people are going to pick UNC, the real Carolina. Now, if we pose that question, would you rather be a State fan or a South Carolina fan to this person who has no allegiances? Then you have to start going through the pros and the cons. So you say there are no pros for South Carolina. So
no, I didn't say that. I did not say that. I simply asked the question, what's the hook for the Gamecocks? Unless you want to wear a hat, a frat boy hat that says Cox across it, I really don't know what the elevator pitch is for South Carolina athletics. What is it?
All right, so let me give you the pros if you were to choose South Carolina.
Okay,
right?
Fair enough.
In general, the two main sports that most fans care about, most male fans in our demographic care about, right? Are football and men's basketball. Fair?
Yes.
Those are the two most popular sports in college.
Those would be the only ones that ultimately matter, yes.
Okay. We'll get to those in a second. But the next two, so that would be on the top tier. The next tier would be baseball and women's basketball. We agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. In those two other sports, the two main other sports, South Carolina has national titles in 2010 and 2011 in baseball. South Carolina has national titles in 2017 and 2022 in women's basketball. Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad.
4 titles in the last 13 years in those two other sports. Pretty good. All right. Now let's go to the obvious. They're in the SEC. SEC money. They got a lot of money. Okay.
Can I take that money with me? Like, am I getting a cut?
Okay, that's a con, but it's a pro and a con.
I mean, like last time I checked, when we get wrapped up in which conference makes the most amount of money, like, okay, cool. But I did not realize that South Carolina fans in Columbia are getting residuals. I didn't realize they're getting checks.
They love Alabama and Georgia. Don't worry.
Okay.
Well, that's a con, but we're in the pros right now. You have the SEC money.
Okay.
Right? 2017, the men's basketball team went to the Final Four. Again, if you're a State fan, you probably take a Final Four in the last 40 years.
Okay.
All right, let's go football. They had 11 wins 3 years in a row. NC State's only won double digits once in their entire history. NC State's never finished in the top 10 of the AP top 25. So they had 11 wins 3 straight years, 11, 12, and 13 in the last, again, 13 years. They finished in the top 10 all 3 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's go a little bit farther back in football. They have a Heisman Trophy winner, something that NC State and something that UNC or Duke can't claim. Okay. And George Rogers, 1980, won the Heisman Trophy.
In 1980.
I'm just giving you the pros. I'm giving you the pros.
When Coach K bought a house on the cheap.
There you go. But I'm giving you the pros.
When interest rates were 18%.
So you have more success in the other sports, which quite frankly, in the G4 text thread, we talk a lot about baseball. We talk a lot about women's basketball. So I do think there is interest in those two sports, right? Oh, and here's the ultimate pro for South Carolina. They made the biggest FU move in the history of college sports by leaving the ACC in 1971 over a dispute about academics in 1971. You figure a lot of that, though, was, hey, I'm tired of Carolina telling us what to do. Hey, I'm tired of Duke and Clemson telling us what to do.
They left. To be what? But they left the SEC? Cool. No. Maryland left. Does anybody spend any time thinking about it?
No. You're giving me the con. I'm giving you the pro. That was the ultimate double bird. We're leaving. And then on the way out, Joe, they won their one and only men's basketball championship. Obviously, the sport in 1971 that anyone and everyone cared about in the ACC. Yeah. So not only did they say, hey, we're tired of you, but then they took their ball and went home with their only men's basketball tournament championship. That's pretty good FU energy.
I mean, that's cool. That's cool that those things happen. But no, I'm not buying this idea. I think you're stretching at this point. Okay. I think you're stretching, especially when you're bringing up the fact that yes, the women's basketball team has won a national championship.
2.
Yes. The baseball team has won a national championship. 2. And this is not, these are things that I have to be very, very careful about because I don't want it to seem like I don't believe there are fans of those sports. There are.
Yeah.
Okay. There are. But I always feel that baseball and women's basketball are propped up when those other two sports have not been successful. So you're clinging to something to be happy about. And I see this kind of projected on to Elliott Avent, right? Whereas, basketball is going through whatever it is at any given time. Football, it's tough sledding in the Atlantic Division, where it was in the Atlantic Division. It's only going to get more difficult now in divisionless football. So, like, all the weary State fans turned their eyes to Elliott Avent to take advantage of these situations, and he's knocked on that doorstep, whether it's, getting to an ACC championship game only to get shut out, or, hey, going to Omaha and having been sent home because of COVID, right? So I feel like baseball has been put in this position that you have to do this for us so we can finally feel the success. And I feel like when you get to talking about when you start propping up baseball, especially baseball, I feel like you're really grasping at straws for something to hang your hat on. It's the equivalent of the hashtag fandom that exists when, say, the tennis team wins the championship. I'm not saying that tennis fans don't exist, but I see you people. I know what's happening. You see that your school won something. You go, oh, cool, we won something. You hit retweet, and then you move on with your life. You did not watch the tennis team. You did not watch the wrestling championship. You didn't. Now, I'm not saying, again, I got to be clear. I'm not saying that there aren't wrestling fans. There are. I'm not saying there aren't tennis fans. There are, or lacrosse fans for that matter. But we see this a lot where it's more about like, I went to a great school because look at all these championships we're winning. But you're not that invested. It's just basically a way to brag on other schools. That's all that is. And if you find yourself arguing over, well, we have more baseball championships than you do, you've already lost the argument. You've lost the argument.
All right,
because this is where we get back to the cons, and I get back to my central point.
I was going to say, we got cons. I'll give you the cons.
Oh, there's tons of cons.
There's a couple of good ones, too.
No, there's the biggest one. The biggest one is, what is your hook? You're not even the Carolina. You're not even the USC. Football is the thing that ultimately stirs the drink for all things. You want a division in 2010, okay? That's your claim to fame. Now, clearly, NC State hasn't even been able to do that, but cool. So it gets back to the hook. Nobody thinks about South Carolina. Nobody thinks of what is South Carolina's rival? Is it Clemson? Is that it? Does Clemson even give a damn about South Carolina? Get your ass beat by Clemson a good chunk of the time now. So at least with State, you have like little things that are, yours, whether it's what happens with NC State and Carolina, what happens with Wake Forest. There's an identity that exists with NC State fans. Maybe it's misery, but at least there's an identity. I couldn't tell you what the South Carolina identity is other than arguing with people about what's the real Carolina. I mean, honestly, that's what the South Carolina hook is to me. And that's not a great hook if you're asking me.
So the cons for South Carolina, since I presented such a great case for the pros.
An amazing case. Yeah. Amazing case.
Those are pretty good ones. I mean, yes, the identity crisis. You're not the real USC. No one thinks of you as USC outside of Columbia. And of course, you're not the real Carolina. That's North Carolina. And then the true con. And this is amazing because while NC State has not won an ACC championship in football since 1979, and they have not won what is recognized as the ACC championship since 1987, South Carolina has never won an SEC football title. South Carolina has, and now they joined in 91, but still a pretty good sample size.
Sure.
They've never won what is recognized by the NCAA and the league as an SEC title in men's basketball. Never.
Mm-hmm.
So in the two sports that, again, are the most popular and the ones that most people care about, you have not only never won a title, but I'll say it, in football, you will never win the SEC title.
No.
Ever.
No.
Never, and there is no hope. So while State has not won a conference title in football since 79, they've at least had years, right? 2010, 17, 21, 22, where you go into them and you go, oh, State has a chance. This is our year. This is a chance. This is our year. You don't even have that at South Carolina. You don't have that hope that it will ever happen. Because by any chance that you do beat Georgia, you'd have to beat them again, right? Or they'd have to lose twice. And then, oh, by the way, your reward is you got to go beat Alabama. Yeah. The chances of South Carolina ever beating the two best teams in the SEC are 0.0.
Okay.
So it's hard to be that fan. It's really, but props to them. Because if you've ever been to Williams-Brice Stadium, 90,000 fans are there.
Oh, yeah.
Every single game. Every time they open those gates, those fans are there, even knowing there is no title in your past and there is seemingly no hope for a title in your future. That's impressive to me. That's impressive to me.
I'll give South Carolina this on our way out. They at least had a Cuban guy as their head coach in basketball. So I'll give them that. Shout out to Frank Martin. And Shane Beamer as head coach of South Carolina is a content machine. Shane Beamer is extreme. He's like our age. He is extremely online. And sometimes he sticks his foot in his mouth. But like, shout out to our guy, Heath Klein, who does sports talk radio out of Columbia, South Carolina. He always has something to talk about because Shane's beefing with somebody. Shane's going to be beefing with somebody.
Maybe
and
us.
It could be. And that's good content.